Debacles of Liberty podcast, where we are uncompromising in our principles and put liberty first, always.
All right, welcome everybody. It is so good to be back on another fantastic Saturday. In case you all have figured out, I have subsequently figured out how to do intros. It's very basic. It's a work in progress, but hey man, we're getting somewhere. And I played around with a little bit of effects. And Travis, you and I have talked about this a few times. And matter of fact, I had just talked to Sean Kennedy, who we've had on the show before, and he's like, "Oh, maybe try this and do this." So, Sean, if you see this, if you're watching at some point, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate that. And your check for the technical assistance is in the mail, brother. Without further ado, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. It's going to be quite an interesting show. We're going to kind of take a retrospective look at the last 250 years. We're going to analyze a few things that the founders thought were important and all of the things that they fought to secede from, and whether or not we can really chalk up what's happening today as a revolutionary betrayal. But before we get into that, Travis J. Wells, thank you, sir, for joining me this evening. And if you want to exposition dump a little bit on everybody as to who you are, what you do, and where they can find you, go ahead, brother.
Well, it all started in Greensboro, North Carolina in 1980. Oh, no, man. So, yeah, I'm happy to be back, man. I ain't going to give you my life story, but I'm sorry I'm in a car on this one, but, like, I had promised to take my wife to see her friend, and I was like, I'm technically double booked, but I can do both, you know? So, yeah, anyway, she's up there having fun, and I'm sitting here to do the podcast and everything. So, yeah, I'm out. You can probably see that I'm strapped, but, you know, it's been good. I was happy to be invited back. Thanks for that. And then
dude.
I'm looking forward to a good conversation, man, because I think he was talking about like the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah.
And like there was quite a bit of drama with all that.
Yeah. And I think in the last time that you were on, we actually talked about some of that drama and how you had, and again, I don't think a lot of people fundamentally understand that there were the anti-federalist side, there's the federalist side, and it's not to say all of the federalists were necessarily nefarious or malevolent, but they just saw things a little bit differently than the anti-federalists. And I think I mentioned also, I tend to come down a little bit more on the anti-federalist side because I think their arguments held up over time a little bit better. But overall, I mean, there was drama, there were disagreements, and then you had some people that were fairly spiteful towards the anti-federalists, and I think we talked about that a little bit. But just to start, looking back at the Declaration of Independence and the revolution and all of the events kind of that occurred, right?
Right.
In your mind, what were some of the major things that really stick out to you from that era as kind of foundational building blocks of where they started from, factually, historically, but also because that's going to factor into what we're going to look at here a little bit later as contemporary issues. So I'll leave the floor to you.
So my podcast is mostly focused on just going through history and just assessing what makes a tyrant and what makes how their brains tick, how they rise, how they fall, and what we can do today to make them fall a little bit faster. You know what I mean? So the story of the whole 1776, the revolution and all that, a lot of people don't quite realize that this didn't just pop out of a jack-in-the-box one day. It didn't just pop out of a hat. This was a process that had been building for almost 200 years. So if you go back to King James, the same King James that wrote the very wrong Bible. Anyway, yeah. So I had to drop a grenade for the Protestants in the. Anyway, So if you go back to King James, he was very rightly worried about the growing power of the merchant class, like which would have been the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos and all that, but they were like merchant barons and things like that, right? And he was afraid that they would eventually grow so powerful that they could completely ignore or even defeat the nobility.
Sure.
And he very rightly started to rein them back in. He was like, I'm the king. You're going to do what I tell you when I tell you to do it at all times. And what happened is right about this same time, you had the Virginia colony opening up. I think that was like 1611, if memory serves. So one of the first things that happens in 1618 is what's called the House of Burgesses. Okay, so the House of Burgesses means businessmen. That's where the word Borgios comes from, that communists are always crying about, right? Well, so the House of Businessmen is what this was here in Virginia, you know, and it was the early proto-government, like 150 years prior to even the first Revolutionary War shot being fired. And then, you know, the second they did something that the king didn't like, he came in and shut them down. Then a few years later, they would find a way to reconvene and start it again. And this was a process that just kept going on for it was like 5 or 6 times that the House of Burgesses formed, and then the king would just crush it and shut it down, you know. But anyways, just a pressure cooker. Just imagine a pressure cooker. It just kept building and kept building and kept building, and then eventually, you got the Sons of Liberty taking over Massachusetts. You got they finally had the predator chasing them for so long that the prey is now strong enough to like at least compete with the predator to a short degree, right?
Sure.
But around this same time, you had the English fighting a major war against the French, and I think the Spanish were involved too, but I'm not exactly sure to what detail. But so you basically, England was fighting a world war in a sense, right? And it was kind of timely that they chose to declare their independence when they did. But the thing is Lexington and Concord happened in 1774. They were already at war for almost 2 years before the Declaration of Independence was ever even signed. So, and at the height of the war, I think we were only fighting about maybe 5% of what the English could really bring to the field. So, if they hadn't been distracted with, the major war with France and all that, it's very likely we would have been crushed again. But because the empire was broke, so it was this is a very complicated situation with a lot of moving parts that eventually culminated into this miracle we call America, you know? And I feel like that's kind of what's going on today. Because if you go through the Declaration of Independence, what you're seeing is that there's 27 line item complaints that they have against King James III, right? And he was, anyway, he is going through there line by line, 27 different points saying, you did this, you won't let us pass laws, you completely oppressed us, It's not just that we were having to pay a stamp tax or anything like that. This was a long and hard abusive relationship with the crown.
Right.
And it eventually came to a head, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And what's interesting is a lot of people also, they don't look back at, subsequently about 15 years before everything popped off to 1761, 1762, James Otis Jr., and a lot of things that built up there. And they tend to be, I think a lot of people, their American history starts in 1770, right? And I think that's being pretty generous. But it's no, there was a lot that went into it, even before, even a little bit closer than the initial dates that you had mentioned.
Right.
And a lot of people think that, oh, it was a war over a 3% tax or whatever the case is. It's like, actually, a lot of it was over the fact that they tried to take the firearms, and they're like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And the insult to injury of, they killed some colonists. They
Yep.
were abusing colonists. They were invading people's homes, for lack of a better way of putting it, and
Yeah.
doing warrantless searches and seizures. I mean, like you said, the list is long, and
Hmm.
it's important to understand also that it wasn't necessarily just grievances. They looked at these things as injury, abuses, and usurpations, and those are very
Hmm.
strong words.
Yeah.
And so when they saw all of these things happening, it's not like they just woke up one day and were like, we're going to do war.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
there was a pretty heavy cost building up there.
Yeah.
And so by the time that they had gotten there, they're like, all right, well, either way, this is probably not going to potentially end well for us. So we can either go out fighting, or we can just bend over and we'll probably get shot anyways. So
Yeah.
it's, it was a very, very tumultuous time.
Hmm.
And and I think a lot of people don't really look beyond the more popular stories, but it does matter,
Right.
and I when I listened to Michael Bolden was just on Scott Horton's
Mhm.
show, I think a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
And I think I'm remembering this correctly. I could be a little bit off, but Michael Bolden kind of had brought up the point. He's like, the Republic kind of started to die in 1791.
Mhm.
And I kind of thought about that, and he laid out his argument, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that, because the way that they were heading already, even at the convention, was already just polar opposite of everything that they,
Mhm.
I don't want to say entirely, but it was heading that way. And
Yeah.
does that mean I hate the Constitution or I hate the things that they accomplished? No, no. We
Yeah.
uh, we have a pretty good setup, I would say.
Mhm.
I mean, it's one of those things to where we I think got very, very fortunate. And before I leave it, before I send it back over to you, something I want to talk about also
Mhm.
is, and I think it's good for the time, but at the same time, it's also good for contemporary, which is, a lot of people say the Constitution's a failed document.
Mhm.
They say, oh, it's failed in its purpose, it's failed in all of these different things. But if anybody who's ever actually studied the founders fundamentally know that even they had said, in order for the document to stand, in order for the Republic to remain, we have to be the enforcing arm of the document. We have to give it the weight. We have to provide the authority. We have to be involved, and we are an incremental, or an important piece, rather, of this process to make sure that the Republic survives. And so, sending it over to you, I mean, that's one area, but what other areas in your mind stick out in terms of what they implied upon us as a duty and a responsibility? And also, I saw a comment here real quick.
Saying I think I've got some feedback.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of feedback, but
Let me try to just get rid of
yeah,
let me try to get rid of the lavalier mic here real quick. Hang on.
gotcha.
Because that might not be doing good.
Okay. But just to kind of,
All right, can you hear me any better now?
oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, right on.
There's a little feedback on that I'm still hearing, but I'm not
Okay, hang
sure.
on. Let me just kill the car. How about that? Let's see.
But
Yeah,
he's starting the war on the machines early. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, exactly. How about that? Any better?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I think we're good. I think we're
Okay,
good.
cool.
So
Yeah,
I'll leave it over to you.
sorry about having to do this in a car.
You're good, man. I'm just happy to have you here. So
Oh yeah. But so yeah, like the guy who inspired me, Patrick Henry. We're talking about the guy who led the charge and helped get Virginia her first warship
yeah,
during the Revolution, right?
One of
This
my
guy,
favorites, by the way.
yeah. I mean, like tippy top. He gets zero credit for what he did.
Right.
Like, but yeah. So like, he was asked because he was the first governor of Virginia,
Mm-hmm.
and
He was also an anti-federalist, if I remember
yes,
correctly. So,
yep. He anonymously wrote. I think I forget how many letters it was, but he wrote several of them
right.
to the newspapers and stuff. And like he was asked to be a delegate to the Constitutional Convention.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and the governor asked him, and he said, "Oh, finances won't allow it to happen. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I can't go." And the governor came to him like later, a couple of years later, and was like, "Look, I know you're not broke. Look at this place. You're loaded. So what's going
Right.
on?" He's like, why wouldn't you go to the Constitution? He's like, I smelled a rat.
Right. Yeah.
So like, because if you look at the prior government, the Articles of Confederation, and a lot of people conflate the Articles of Confederation with the Confederate States of America.
Right.
Not
Yep.
the same at all. We're talking two
Right.
completely different governments. So the Articles of Confederation, if you read it, it's a one pager really. It says this is a formal contract of friendship between the states.
Yes.
And it was basically, let's just say NATO. Let's say that, but 1770-ish, right? That was the original government of these United States. And it was a formal contract of friendship. But under the Constitution, if you start reading, it's centralizing federal power, and there is the supremacy clause and all that, which a particularly evil piece of crap named Abraham Lincoln came along and really stretched out that supremacy clause,
Right.
like you wouldn't even believe. But my most controversial podcast episode was when we were talking about the Confederacy.
That was a good one, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, I was really happy with it because Dr. Wanjuru Najoya, she's total sweetheart.
Oh, she's fantastic.
She's got an IQ of like 2,000, and I've got an IQ of like 50. So I'm studying for a month straight. Like I am not going to look stupid in front of her. I am not.
Right.
And anyway, so she was a complete sweetheart about it though. Like she she knew that I'm self-educated. I don't have all these fancy degrees, and I didn't teach at Exeter and all that. So complete sweetheart. We had a great time. Very easy person to talk to. And I could go all day about Abraham Lincoln, but the thing is it wouldn't have mattered if Abraham Lincoln was born or not, because once you have that amount of power centralized in one spot, that's when bad things really start to happen. And it's like gravity, and
for sure
you can predict it just like gravity. I mean, the guy who has that much power is going to do some bad things with it, And anyway, as far as the Constitution is paper.
Yes.
It wouldn't matter if it was literally a perfect document or not. It cannot enforce itself. It can lay there on a desk, and if the words are facing up, you can read them, but it's up to us, the people, to enforce that document.
Right.
Which is why my hero, Patrick Henry, said that the great object is that every man be armed, and which is why my podcast is named the Great Object Podcast.
Yes.
Because the great object is that every man be armed. I don't care if you're black, gay, Latino, white, whatever. It doesn't matter what that piece of paper says if you cannot enforce your will upon the government.
Right.
So, and we have, as a culture, utterly failed to enforce this document, and that's on us. That's not like people like Trump, people like Abraham Lincoln. They're a dime a dozen. They're born every 5 minutes.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
One of them is gonna roll the dice and get into power. That's just how it works. But the
Exactly.
only
Yeah.
but the only way to keep them from being like, okay, all right, fine, I won't be a tyrant, I won't be an asshole, is that he is afraid. Is that he is literally afraid for his life. You
Yeah.
know, and I'm not trying to Fed post here because the thing is, if you go all the way back to like 1100 when the
Hmm.
king first had to sign, I think it was King John that signed the Magna Carta. The
Yep.
surety barons were leading a rebellion, and they didn't want to get rid of the king. Like
Hmm.
if they wanted to get rid of the king, they could have. They could have walked in and just killed everybody in London, but they didn't. Like
Right.
they made him sign this document. And the document was, it was like, you have limited power.
Right.
You're gonna be a figurehead, and you're gonna like you have very limited authority. You can't just do
Hmm.
whatever the hell you want, stuff like that. And then they went back home after he signed it, and he wasn't happy about signing it because he wanted to be a tyrant. But the
Right.
thing is he was afraid for his life, you know. So that's why the things like the Magna Carta came about. And
Well,
oh, go ahead.
well, I was just gonna say, and all this to say as well, and just to kind of add to what you've brought up already, is overall there there's an expectation of stewardship.
Hmm.
Whether it's stewardship of your home,
Hmm.
stewardship of your faith, stewardship of your community, your
Hmm.
state, your country, whatever the case is.
Hmm.
And I think that was something at the time was relatively ingrained in the nature of these individuals. And I want to put it out there very clearly too. There's a lot of revolutionary women like Mercy Otis Warren who get not enough recognition and not enough time in the spotlight because
Oh yeah.
without them, many of these men would have probably faltered and failed a long time ago. And I just
Hmm.
want to reinforce that. If you, what I would encourage a lot of people to do is to go back and read the personal letters between these men, their wives, and some of the other revolutionaries, because
Hmm.
it really does kind of fill in a lot of those gaps and
Hmm.
really create a better picture of like what these people were going through, their feelings, their emotions.
Hmm.
There's some letters to where they're like, man, I don't think this is going to turn out very well.
Right. Right.
Like they're just like, yeah, I don't know if I'm coming home next winter. It's
Hmm.
like this ain't going so hot over in
Yeah.
this area. And
Yeah,
and
and especially if you
so
look at battles like Valley Forge, where everybody was slowly starving to death.
right, and
Valley
that's
Forge came down to who starved last. Like,
yes, yeah, yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I just wanted to add that because I feel like it really kind of factors into a lot of these things. There was an expectation of stewardship, but there was a much grander scope to these people than just like, oh, it's George Washington and James Madison and Sam
Hmm.
Adams and John Adams and Ben Franklin. It's like, no, there's actually a lot of people that did not get credit for the
Hmm.
founding of this country, and a lot of people think it was only just a handful of dudes, when in reality it was quite a few. There's a
Yeah.
lot of these guys and gals, and
Yeah. And some of them were literally willing to sacrifice everything.
yes,
Like our first president. I know a lot of people think it was George Washington, but it wasn't. It was John Hancock.
mhm,
He was the president of Congress under the Articles of Confederation.
right,
He's quoted as saying, "Burn Boston, though it make a pauper out of John Hancock. At least we'll be free." And I'm
mhm.
like, dang man, that brings a tear to my eye. That's like Giga Chat energy. I'm like,
Yeah,
damn, that's some emotions right there. I'm like,
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's man, and just looking back at that time, I remember. I don't know how much of Chris Ann Hall's stuff that you've read or looked at, but she's a constitutional attorney, and she really came on to the scope of things when she essentially left the practice that she was at, and she's like, no, I won't bend over just to violate the Constitution. He said, this is the Constitution. This is what's right. And, God bless this woman because she's been at it for well over a decade. And I would highly recommend if people have not, Liberty First University is a fantastic place to go learn about the Constitution, learn about the founding. She even does a class. It's like $20 a month. It's amazing.
Oh, wow.
And you just get updated content and classes as time goes on. But there's one called The Forgotten Founders, and it is amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. She does such a good job. Her and her husband JD do a great job. But the point that I was trying to make by bringing her up was, she's like, it's not so much that these men were extraordinary; it's that they were ordinary men set in extraordinary times, and they just happened to rise to the top. And very fortunately for us and the subsequent generations that followed them, that they did, and they took a stand, and they made it known that they were not just going to be slaves or serfs to the king anymore. And and it was a different culture at that time. It was a different type of character and a different type of drive that these people had. And the reason I bring that up is because that's also going to be a factor a little bit later down in the conversation in terms of culture and what has happened subsequently with that. But before we go down that, I'll leave you to put your thoughts on that and the founding generation. And then, we'll kind of cover, as we go towards our time, a few prominent situations or events that happened on our way up to 2026. So take it away, brother.
So back to like what you were saying about like just these regular men that just happen to just rise to the top. Like one of my favorites is Daniel Boone. Like when because like he had led like a hunting trip, right? And he had lost everything in some kind of accident. I forget exactly what happened, but anyway, the person who had financed his trip, right, wanted their furs to get they wanted their furs, and he's like, look, I'm willing to pay you, but the thing is I can't. Like this happened, I can't control it. It was beyond my means. I'm still willing to make good on the deal that I made with you. But anyway, so the dude sued him and took him to court. But the judge that judged the case is like, okay, it looks like Mr. Boone's actually admitting that he still owes the debt. He's not contesting that he owes you this money, So, okay, that's fine. So the judge had just bought I think it was like 2 million acres in Kentucky.
Holy, must be nice.
Yeah, just imagine being that rich, right?
Well,
right.
Anyway, for a total of like what, $5?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the thing is the judge decides to just square the debt himself and hire Boone to go out and found what's called Boonesboro, And they went out there with like settlers and everything and built a big fort. Funny side story while I'm talking about that. For a very long time, like we're talking like 30 or 40 years, actually probably a little bit longer, my family believed that we were descended from Daniel Boone. Well, it turns out we are descended from Daniel Boone, but it isn't that Daniel Boone.
Oh, man, what a fly in the ointment situation that is.
Well, I mean, the guy was clearly still a badass because he was out on the frontier with the real Daniel Boone. Like he was making it just alongside him, right?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Boonesboro at one point they start running out of salt, so they've got to go 50 miles away to a salt spring and start boiling water and getting salt out of that so they can preserve meat and keep surviving at Boonesboro, right?
Right.
So all these men leave, and they all get captured by the Indians and sold to the British at that time because like there was a Western front. It wasn't just up the coastline that England was attacking us. Like they were doing that same thing we're doing to rebels in the Middle East right now. They were using the natives and arming them and being like, hey, fight for us and you'll have your freedom and all that crap, right? So anyway, Daniel Boone, he's a captive, and then he overhears and learns that he's going to be expected to march back with these Indians and talk Boonesboro into surrendering because that fort is holding down the entire western front of the war. So Anyway, Daniel Boone manages to escape, and this Giga Chad mofo, I think he makes it like 112 miles in like 3 days on foot. Can you just imagine how much you have to be hauling butt?
The cardio king. The cardio king.
Well, like he didn't even have shoes. He was having to make shoes out of tree. He was having to make shoes out of tree bark and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you have time to stop, and like, are you even sleeping? Like, because
Right.
like his family's there at Boonesboro, his daughter and everything, right? So of course he's going to be trying to get back there, but like covering that kind of terrain barefoot in 3 days, like holy crap!
Oh yeah, yeah. Dude,
So
people
like,
were built different back then.
oh man, like we're talking like legend energy. Like there should be comic books about this guy, you know? But yeah, like it's just amazing the stuff that our ancestors have done. And I mean,
Right.
I see a lot of it in today's, and the reason I study history so much is because I'm trying to get a peek at like history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. And you know, we can get a peek at what's happening because it's happened. Very similar things have happened before.
Right.
So like basically the United States is now pretty much involved in World War III. I don't know if you're tracking the Iran war, but
I've been tracking all of it, brother.
It's
starting to give me an aneurysm.
It's getting worse and worse by the day. It is not slowing down. Our strategic oil reserves are almost empty. China's strategic oil reserves are not much better than ours. Russia, like they can make their own fuel for their own people if they really need to, and we could do the same. But OPEC is pretty much finished. Like we've already had to move our bases in Jordan and like twice because Iran keeps punishing because we don't have the interceptor missiles to keep this fight going, you know?
Yeah.
Well, wars are fought for economic reasons, you know? And like we're eventually going to have a global energy crisis over this because once the strategic oil reserves are gone, that means we're paying $10, $15, $20 a gallon at the pump. And even then we're probably going to be rationing it, you know? So it's just, it's, you know, and at that time, I guarantee you here in the States, you're going to have major like terrorist cells pop up and start becoming armies and start a civil war, you know? So it's, you know, it's not, I don't want it to happen, obviously, but like, you know, Trump started this stupid war for Israel. So I guess we got to ride it. We got to ride the tiger now, you know?
Yeah. Well, and perhaps maybe we start to segue into this because I feel like it's interesting when you look back at all of the different founders. It wasn't like a lot of people like to quote Washington, and fair enough. I mean, Washington was a man ahead of his time. You know, he made mistakes, but he was like, hey, you know what a great idea is? You want to know how we can economically prosper with a lot of people, mitigate, you know, enemies, you know, and try and figure this out is, I don't know, you know, like goodwill, friendship, trade, you know, dealing with people on an amicable basis. He very much believed in diplomacy, which fair enough. You know, I don't think he was wrong. But at the same time, like we also have to remember that people were extremely well read back in the day. They were actual statesmen, so they could go out to a country, even a place that they absolutely abhorred, and they're just like, yeah, we'll sit down. You know, we'll sit down, we'll talk about things. I may not agree with you, but at least I can walk away from here having a better understanding of why it is that you feel the way that you do and why we're at the impasse that we're at. And, you know, I even, you know, I guess in terms of points of history, let me pull this one out just for the sake of it. A lot of people have pointed out that when you look back at John F. Kennedy, for instance, the man was a diplomat, despite anything else that you want to think about the guy. He was willing to sit down with the Russians. He did sit down with the Russians. Between him and the Russians, we avoided a catastrophic event. And it was because of the fact that he was willing to think on his own and make decisions and be able to move forward and say, hey, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. I want to talk to these guys, or I want to get a better picture. That's what a diplomat does. That is what a person who actually cares about their country does, instead of being like, they're not playing nice with me, so I guess I'm just going to have to bomb them into oblivion. It's like, well, that's a pretty quick run towards absolute catastrophe. And I think when we look back at the founders and a lot of their wisdom, a lot of it wasn't even their own wisdom. They got it from people like Aristotle and Plato and many other people throughout history. And so while I don't believe in necessarily looking back and trying to reinvigorate the times that our founders went through, because one, it's kind of physically impossible, we can learn from them. And I think that's important going forward. And when we look at everything that's happening today, one of the questions I have that hopefully you'll be able to kind of delve into is, where are the diplomats, man? Like, where are the people that are willing to sit down and talk to other countries and have some level of professionalism or candor, or, whatever the case is, to have a drink across from a person that you don't like and be able to leave that room and potentially do it all over again, and not leave the room knowing for a fact that you just lied to their face and you had no intention of trying to solve anything whatsoever. Cough, cough, not that hasn't happened the last year, So I want to leave you with that and kind of hear what your take is on that. Because I think diplomacy is a huge thing. It was even back then, and I think it is very much today. So,
well, to quote the second greatest general that ever lived, Robert E. Lee, he said, "It is good that war is so terrible, unless we grow too fond of it."
100%.
And I genuinely think that anybody who actually understands violence, and what it really entails, like this crap you see in action movies, it's fake. None of that is real. People don't just fall down whenever you shoot them. Things little things like that just add up into a completely misinterpreted reality, right?
Yeah.
Violence is truly horrible. And anybody who actually understands violence is going to be a diplomat at his core, because he knows what happens if he fails. If he doesn't if he doesn't sit down and swallow his effing pride, which doesn't seem like the guy in charge right now knows how to do that.
Right.
When you sit down and be like, okay, I have to figure this out or millions of people are going to die. I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to see blood and crap covered streets. I don't want to hear babies crying because they're starving. I don't want to see people displaced and dying of very preventable diseases like cholera, things like that, or dysentery, And
I hear Jenny died from dysentery.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. All of the people old enough to know the Oregon Trail. I had to throw that one in there. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Exactly. I don't know how you're supposed to survive dysentery on the Oregon Trail, because it doesn't actually give you an option of being. It doesn't give you the option of, do you want to drink the poop water? No, I do not want to drink the poop water. It just says, it's like, oh, you're driving along, minding your own business, and all of a sudden you died of dysentery.
Right.
No, that's not how dysentery works.
Yeah, and 6 of your oxen died of the 8 that you had pulling your wagon train, by the way. So.
Yeah, exactly. But we've just gotten so comfortable in this industrialized paradise that we live in, that people forget what actual struggle looks like.
Right.
And the reason the Native Americans would fight to their very last breath is because they knew that they would not be treated well when they got captured. They would have body parts slowly cut off, and they would die screaming. That's why they would fight to their very last breath. They would make sure that they died in combat. And the thing is Trump is sending realtor buddies of his to go negotiate a lot of these MOUs and stuff like that.
I
These
hate
men
it.
they don't understand violence. All they understand is that as long as the missiles keep flying, they keep making money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the real tragedy of this, because like eventually enough weak people will get killed. That's how war
Yeah.
works. And a strong man will come along and sit everybody down and be like, sign it now. This is stopping right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like like World War One, dumbest war that was ever fought in human history. Probably not the dumbest battle, but like we'll get into that some other time.
Yeah.
But the dumbest war is World War One. And in my podcast intro, I have one of the 10-second scenes is of the
Mm-hmm.
Christmas truce.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Sabaton did a really good job of doing the
Oh,
Christmas truce.
it was fantastic.
Oh my God! I actually like there were some man tears with that one, you know. But yeah, like so, this just absolute like hell on earth scenario, carnage. These
Mm-hmm.
guys like they're having to saw body parts off of their friends with no anesthesia.
Right.
They're all starving. But then there comes a Christmas truce for let's say 12 hours, and they wander over and they're making friends with the Germans. The Germans are
Yeah.
making friends with the English. They're playing kickball together, And
Mm-hmm.
then when we're done doing the Christmas break, you gotta start killing your friends now, and nobody wanted to do that. Not a single one.
Right.
Not a single effing one of them wanted to do that. So they ended up having to move entire battalions just to get the war going again.
Right.
Like
Right.
they had to move. I forget exactly how many soldiers they had to move, but they had to move a lot of people around
Yeah, it was
just
quite
to
a bit.
get people to start shooting each other again. And that's the
Yeah.
neocons that exist in every age. Like the neocons we're dealing with today, they purposely put poison pills. Israel has killed the diplomats of Iran several times
Mm-hmm.
now. Like they'll figure out where the meeting's being held, and then they'll just 0 point the building. So
Right.
this is very artificial. Obviously, Iran doesn't want this war to go on.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, like it would be way worse than it wants.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Russia doesn't actually want to keep fighting Ukraine, but they can't lose Sevastopol. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
their entire economy collapses because of Crimea. So, like, eventually this will turn nuclear as these countries run out of options to fight.
So something that I think is worth asking, and it's kind of the crux of the episode, is given everything that happened with the Declaration of Independence, our subsequent revolution, and everything that came afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like, and I know kind of probably how I'm going to respond to this, but do you feel like, Travis, that there is a betrayal of the revolution? Do
Oh,
you feel
100%.
like the revolution was wholeheartedly betrayed? Do you get the sense that not only, and I'm not trying to, put words in your mouth. I'm asking, like, do you feel that everything they fought to secede from
Mm-hmm.
has not only been rebuilt, but do you think it's worse, like exponentially worse
Mm-hmm.
than what they came from?
Yes, 100%. I think it started with the whiskey rebellion tax under Alexander Hamilton.
Right.
Aaron Burr did nothing wrong. He did everything right. He did a good job. I'm not going to say what he did because I don't want to get your channel banned. But you can look that up. Aaron Burr, him and Alexander Hamilton fought a duel. We'll put it that way, and he won.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Well,
But yeah, Hamilton, like, so
history's cruel.
I genuinely think that, like, because if you look at all the Wall Street billionaires and stuff, and the reason it's called Wall Street is because there used to be a big fort wall that covered that street, because it was like a fort wall. So once they tore down the walls of the thing, it became a street,
Sure.
So Wall Street, yeah. So yeah, it's a pun, but it it works. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Alexander Hamilton immediately started shaking hands with all these businessmen. So in a way, like all of this and his big financial system that he created, right? Because he was the Secretary of the Treasury.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of pretty much everything he did was the culmination of the fears of King James, saying that, these merchants will eventually outpower nobility.
Right.
They used the patriots and things like that. Of course, the patriots needed it. More good came out of this than harm. Don't think
Sure. Yep.
I'm criticizing that Washington fought, but like these billionaires, well, what would be billionaires eventually in Wall Street and like in New York stock trades and all that, these
Mm.
big merchant things, they raised, I think it was like $10 million for Washington. And
Mm-hmm.
with that, he could buy blankets, he could buy ammunition, food, all that, everything the Continental Army
Right.
needed. And anyway, once that started, it's like the businessmen were in control of everything that 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 the country was becoming, right?
Right.
So then you come along to the Second War for Independence, which is commonly called the Civil War. The
Mm-hmm.
Confederates were calling BS on everything that was going on because, like, they were paying mass tributes. Because, like, if you look at 1828 with the Tariff of Abominations,
Sure.
the South was being expected to pay, like, it was like a 50% tax on all of their exports and
Mm-hmm.
imports. So, like, they were being, and with this money, they were building roads and railroads and everything, but they were only building them in the North.
Sure. Yep.
And and I don't know if you've played Settlers of Catan, but if you don't have roads, you can't trade with people,
Right.
So
Right.
so obviously, like that made the South and the North, even though they were the same country under the
Mm-hmm.
same Constitution, they were becoming competing entities. Like they were
Right.
having to compete with each other economically when they should be shaking hands, you know. And Henry Clay comes along a couple of years later and manages to do like what's called a tariff of compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's got like the 50%, which slowly walks it back down
Yep.
to a reasonable level, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then in 1861, we all know what happened in 1861. But
Mm-hmm.
the but here comes Congress is like, we need more money, which is what Congress always does. And they're like, oh, we're going to do the Morial tariff, which jacks it right back up to 50%. So this
Mm-hmm.
tariff of compromise that kept the peace in the 1830s is now back in full force, and the South is like, no, we're not paying this tariff. We will not pay this because it is unjust. We're not getting anything for it. It's basically taxation without representation and all
Right.
that again.
Yep.
And of course, the South fought back. And the thing is like Lincoln and all his cronies, they thought that the war would be over within a couple of days. No,
Mm-hmm.
they tried to march Hooker down to Chancellorsville, and Robert E. Lee broke his foot off in his butt.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
And it's just like, sure, that was the culmination of King James, but the thing is like little nuggets that managed to survive all of this
Mm-hmm.
onslaught of tyrants over the years, like the Second Amendment
Mm-hmm.
and like the First Amendment and things like that. It has eventually grown into a much broader tree of liberty. Like
Oh, for
right
sure. Yeah.
now, just since, let's just say, the last 60 or 70 years, Supreme Court case after Supreme Court case are striking down these tyrannical things that have been the norm for so long in this country.
Right.
Like here in just a few months, the Supreme Court has agreed to take a case about the assault weapons ban. That's huge.
Yeah.
Like these states, they've had weapons banned for so long over all these little things, right?
Yeah.
Then it was actually
Minnesota just won their FRT case.
yeah, and it was originally a national assault weapons ban, and I think it was like '94, and then Heller versus DC came along.
It was Clinton era, right?
Yeah, and Clarence Thomas stepped down from the clouds and said, nope, and
Yeah.
it's like, God help us when that man dies. Like, I genuinely don't know what we're going to do without him, but
Yeah.
like, it was bad enough losing Scalia, but it was, ultimately, I trying to veer it back to your question, like, it's really up to us to defend the Constitution.
Sure.
But if you go back to just war theory, like, let me minimize this real quick and pop over here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I still got you. Can you hear me?
Okay, I think.
You're a little frozen and broken up there.
Uh-oh, how about this? Hang on. Let me see here. Can you hear me now?
That's better. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not going to be able to look at my notepad because I'm on the phone. So I'll just go off memory for what I know from just war theory.
Gotcha.
So St. Thomas Aquinas, he's one of the major saints in the Catholic Church, right?
Based.
Absolutely based. Like, yeah. Like, I actually had his book on kingship laying on my desk, and I forgot to bring it. But anyway, like, through that book, he's detailing line by line what makes a good king, what makes a bad king, what makes a tyrant, what makes a good leader, things like that. Well, in his just war theory, there's only like 3 points. Well, he expands just war theory because Saint Augustine is the one who wrote just war theory. But anyway, his 3 points were if you've tried everything and nothing seems to work, you've tried to redress your grievances. Is it a proper authority? And is it a danger? Is it a imminent danger to your people? And if it meets
who else
all
talked
three of
about
those
imminent
criteria.
danger?
Oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
No, I was going to say, it's funny you bring that up because who else talked about something being an imminent danger before you do anything?
Right.
Weird.
Yeah, right, exactly. And I mean, Christ himself says, go buy, if you don't have a sword, go buy a sword, like sell your cloak and buy one. And a lot of people don't quite understand that when he's saying sell your cloak, he's basically saying sell your house. Because like, to any nomadic person, your cloak is your house. Like, it protects you from the weather. It's like going to Douglas Adams and don't forget your towel, like you're going to need it, So if he's telling you to say something as vital as a cloak to sell it and buy a sword, that is very important, like, and that's coming out of the word of God himself,
Yeah.
So, but little things have happened, like, I think a lot of real miracles have happened that has propped America up. That was one of my first articles when I really first started getting into all this, the miracles that made America. But yeah, like, I could talk all day about like little tiny things that have happened that like prove there's a God. But like, really, I think just to reel it back and pass it back to you, like, everybody who understands violence is a diplomat, because unless you're a psychopath, you're not going to enjoy violence. Like I have I have 27 rounds on me right now, and I got my 1911 right here below the camera. I'm not showing it on YouTube because it'll like cut your feed, but
they get weird.
Yeah, but the thing is I pray in the name of Jesus Christ that I never ever have to draw this weapon in anger.
Yeah.
Like, that is the last effing thing I want to do. You know what I mean? And like, that's because I understand violence, though. Like, I understand that it is permanently life changing, and that makes me the diplomat. I'm going to be like, let's calm down. Let's figure this out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's, when I look back at everything, and I look at, we talked about to some degree the buildup of what subsequently led to the Declaration of Independence, the Revolution, all of these different things. And as we explained, there was a lot that went into it. Like just to reiterate, it wasn't whimsical. It wasn't something that just they woke up and they're like, oh, we're going to do this today because we're fed up with it. It's like, no, there was a fair bit, but when you look at the sacrifices that those people made, and it's no small thing to say like we're seceding from a superpower, because Brett, let's be honest, at the time, Great Britain, up until probably World War I at least, was considered to be one of the prominent powers in the world, along with France and a few others, right? I would say France probably, they were on the cusp, but I think they were slowly starting to like come down from that. But I digress. I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but I do think that there has been an ultimate betrayal, and not just today, but throughout probably the last 150 to 200 plus years, even shortly after our foundation. I would actually go a step further and say that I agree with Michael Bolden that I think some of that betrayal and I think some of the troubling waters started around 1791, 1792. I think that became very apparent. And where we have these men that were well read, these women that were well read, they understood the cost, they understood what it took to start something, what it took to get somewhere, all of these different trials and tribulations. And again, you add into the cultural aspect of all of this. When I look around today, I know that this is going to be probably fairly unpopular with people, but we are not that people anymore. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like, people hear that and they're like, well, what do you mean we're not those people? It's like the plus side to that is we have the opportunity. They, by everything they did, they afforded us the opportunity to be better people than they ever were. So we can be way better than what they ever were. We have the ability to do better things than what their wildest imagination could be, but we're not those people. And that comes in many facets, not only just diplomacy, not only just in governance, and we'll get into some of the surveillance state stuff and a few other things. But one of the things I really want to harp on, and again, probably a couple of these things are going to be very unpopular with people, but one, something that's a little more mainstream, is we have a situation to where when we look at the graduated literacy rate of children, it is abysmal. It is absolutely abysmal. There was I don't know if this is still accurate, but I did see something several months ago that was citing that 40% of graduates, I think it was like only like 40% of graduates barely are competent with literacy and the ability to have like a regular form of dialogue, right? So where does that leave the other 60%? Where does that leave the rest? You have people that have no ability to count to a basic level. They can't write to a basic level. They don't know how to do basic things. We're cranking these kids out of these institutions and these government schools, and they don't know how to do anything. So that's a huge, huge issue. I mean, you have Trump in this administration, and you have other people besides him, but they all come by and they say like, oh, we're the greatest country in the world. How is it that it's like Schrodinger's country? How is it that we can be the greatest country in the world, but yet we don't even have literate people to a high degree? It's not a small degree. We have people that can barely read. And regardless of what you think about other countries, to many degrees, you're having people in other countries that are graduating knowing like 2 languages. And you and I talked about this before, like some very well-read kids. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're intelligent or that they're smart, but there is something there. And one of the other areas that I want to kind of get into as well is not just the literacy issue and not just the issue as it pertains to general competence, general education, the ability to understand what's working and what's not working. I think Travis might have froze. But But there's a myriad of other things too. We have people that don't have they don't have basic skills, and we're going to keep going. He'll probably jump back on here quickly. It's probably a reception thing, but we have people that just don't have basic skills. We have people that are lacking the basic ability to take care of themselves, right? I mean, you have people that are going out and expecting all of these other things to be done by themselves or by others for their own benefit. And that's creating a situation. You have people that are so detached from anything to do with subsequently, here he is. You're back.
Sorry, my phone overheated.
Yeah,
I had to put it on the air conditioner for a second. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, you're good, man. You're
okay.
Good. But it's like we have also, aside from just the skills and the education and stuff, we have not been stewards of our own culture. We've not been stewards of who we are as American, our identity, and who we are supposed to be as a people. We certainly haven't done right by that. But there's something else that troubles me a lot, and this is one of those points that I know that I'm either going to. I'll probably have people that do agree, and I'll have people that vehemently disagree with this. The founders talked that in order to maintain a just and liberty-oriented society, that we have to be well-educated, that we have to be a moral and virtuous people, right? I'm finding it extremely hard to not look at what I'm about to say as anything other than anti-human and regarding life as nothing but disposable. And I know people have mixed opinions about this, but when I look at different topics like euthanasia and abortion, I am to a point at this juncture that those two things are so inherently anti-human. And the area that and I'll let you kind of add your point after I finish here, but at the same time, there is and very few people, I think, that may watch this will fundamentally understand what I'm about to say. Not only do I find these things inherently anti-human, they are devoid of morality, they are devoid of virtue, but at the same time, these are things that I really do feel are a stain to the soul. It's a stain to our very human nature, and is antithetical in many ways. And I know people are going to talk about, oh, it's the right or the liberty. It is. We have free will, but we still have to make those decisions, right? It doesn't mean that those decisions are proper. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they're just. I find it that we as a society have allowed not just those things, but many other things like pornography, like gang life, like so many of these, again, people have the right to do what they want, and to live. It doesn't, well, I shouldn't say they have necessarily the right, because there's an argument there that when you violate the rights of somebody else and then claim that as a right, that's kind of a negative there. But there is something that I feel as a country that we have gone down such a dark hole, Travis, that we are, once you accept one thing, and I think war is very much a part of this. When you start to accept some of the darkest things, some of the most degenerate things, some of the things that will stain your soul, you are going to be conditioning a society that's willing to accept just about anything you give it. And I just don't see how these things are for the betterment of our society. And in general as a country. I think it's a betrayal of overwhelmingly who we are. And I understand there's going to be people out there that object to that, but
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just felt like it had to be said. And I get the one point I was trying to make is there is something in suffering that we all go through as human beings. And that suffering has meaning, it has purpose, it builds us into who we are.
Builds
And
character.
and it does. And it's like, but it's also it's something that's built into this life that I don't feel that we have any right to meddle in.
Right.
And I just when it comes to things like euthanasia, and you look at abortion, and you look at the rates, man. I just listened to something about the MAID program in Canada, and there's doctors up there that not only, I mean, hundreds of people they have put down, but when you read some of the testimonies and some of the things that have happened with those programs, where people wake up, they're screaming, they're hit with a paralytic, and they don't want to die anymore. And yet they go through and they kill that person. And, and this is the thing is, when we've gotten to a point like that as society, Travis,
Yeah.
what does that say about us?
Well, I mean, a lot of this has happened before, like when really bad things happen, people get tough. Like hard times make good men. I mean, hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. Hard times make strong men.
Yeah.
This is a cycle within nature. Like what 5 minutes after the Israelites are taken out of Egypt, they immediately, like, Moses goes up to the mountain to pray. He comes back down. They're partying with a golden calf. He's like, you can't wait 5 freaking minutes before you start building an idol. So yeah, like I think this is just something deeply ingrained in humanity, in just humanity in general. It doesn't matter like the culture. Like, I genuinely think comfort is the most poisonous thing that anybody can do. Because like even Christ himself said that it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the heaven, right? And I don't think it's because of the money. I think it's because of the love of comfort, like that love of just the easy life, the good life, where tolerance in and of itself becomes a virtue. Like if you look at liberalism at all, the whole thing is just, can you tolerate everything? Can you tolerate people cutting the genitals off of children and all that? No, no, the hell I cannot tolerate somebody cutting the genitals off of children, and I refuse to. Like, call me a butthole if you want to. That's fine. I don't mind being called a butthole about that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But one of the, I think it's the first article I actually wrote for our caucus was it was talking about natural law and how I genuinely think that the laws of God are actually programmed into nature itself. And that goes to what's called natural law, right? So if you look at morality as a concept, anything that we consider to be moral, it generates either life, wealth, or security. It almost always generates all three at the same time. Like, if you aren't going to be abortion and you're not going to be killing old people or sick people, that's going to generate life. If you don't blow your money on the new EFT scheme or just because you like drugs or whatever, you're going to genuinely be okay economically and financially, right? So, like, just these moral actions generate life, wealth, and security. My working out, like all the time, rucking a mile a day with my 40-pound bag, staying in shape, that's generating.
Oh, your audio cut out there, bud. I think your audio cut out there, Travis. Can you hear me? Oh, hold on. Hold on. Wait one. Hey, Travis, can you hear me? Oh, hold on. Just kidding. Hold on. Uh, bro, you're on a roll, but we couldn't hear what you were saying, so I might have to pop you out and have you come back on, or unless you can fix it from there. But
Microphone. Can you hear me now?
There we go. There we go.
All right. Okay, the car is Bluetooth connected to. So what did you hear last? Because like I finally seen Sean's message and he's like, "Stop talking, Travis."
Yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to go back about 30 seconds, man.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what I was talking about, but like I was basically saying comfort is poison. You know, like.
No, it is, and you know there is and I wanted to ask you a question because you're making some really good points. In the three characteristics that you explained, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can we have a just like not just a liberty oriented society, right? Like I'm just talking explicitly like a just society. Is there a way to have a just society without having having those three characteristics at play? If things are not positively factoring in, then what do we have? Because I know I said it before, but there are just some things that I think are just so anti-human that there's no way that they can fundamentally factor into a just society. And obviously it's not limited to those things, and there's other things there, but I mean, what do you think, man?
Well, what I think is that for at least the last 70 years, leftists have enjoyed a birth rate of about 1.6 per woman on average. Yeah. And right wingers like me and you, like, unfortunately, I don't have kids myself. I haven't been blessed with that yet. Maybe one day. But we right wingers have enjoyed roughly an average of 2.5 children per woman, right? So the thing is just those two competing beliefs, leftists are driving themselves extinct because you got to at least hold it to keep your population as is, But we're gaining like 25% on our numbers, Travis covered the epilepsy.
Sorry. I had to put that.
That's funny, man. What's up, Sean? How you doing, buddy? But yeah, like, it's a matter of like survival ultimately, like they're not being replaced very quickly. It's like we're almost getting a kid per woman on them just in what generates survival, So like I think it's a foregone conclusion that we're about to see some hard right takeover of the world governments right now, because there's just not enough leftists to make a difference anymore.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, and a lot of them are trying to let in all these big, like they're just trying to do this whole open borders thing and let in a bunch of like Mexicans and stuff like that. Well, joke's on them. Most of the Mexicans are Catholics. So, like,
right.
and they're having like 4 and 5 kids per
Yeah,
family. So I mean,
yeah,
like just do the mariachi music, you know, like
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I hate to say it, but when it comes down to it, I I know a few Mexican people myself, and they make a pretty persuasive argument. They got some pretty good food, and man, their music goes pretty hard. So I mean,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, um, but you know, I do think that there is, I think a society to some degree can be gauged on a couple of factors. I think it can be gauged on the people that we allow at our leadership, the types of morals or virtues or values that we espouse or lack thereof, but
Mhm.
also in how we treat human life.
Mhm.
And when you treat human life as disposable, and I'm not, and
Mhm.
in this, I'm not even just talking about necessarily euthanasia or abortion, but war is a big factor into that too.
Mhm.
When you treat human life as disposable, it doesn't, I don't know, man, like that doesn't speak well for a society. And
No,
it
of course it
certainly
doesn't.
it certainly does not speak well for a society that espouses liberty.
There is
You know,
just
it's I
nothing more barbaric than hurting a child. Like I genuinely can't think of any
yeah,
more reprehensible action than harming a child, and
yeah,
that includes abortion. Like you know, like bring every leftist that you've got against my point. The fact
yeah,
is that children are our future. If we are not serving them with our every breath, then we're freaking screwed. You know what I mean?
right,
So you know, it matters that you know they are literally our future, and if we don't have them, we have no future. So, you know, if the leftists want to abort all their babies, that's tragic, but and we can't stop them. I mean, they'll figure out a
yeah,
way to do it with a
it's a
coat hanger if they
catastrophe
want.
for sure.
But the thing is like you know, at least us right wingers are having big families, mostly, and it's just, I think all of this is just programmed into nature by the hand of God Himself, you know, because like it's just like nature responds to correct moral actions by
Mhm,
doting you with survival and wealth and security, you
sure,
know. Like if you build a fort wall around your people, it will be that your people will be protected from things. Sure, it's hard to build a fort wall, but you
sure,
get rewarded for doing it because you're going to have all your kids alive here in a few years, you know.
right,
But you go to euthanasia, like you were pointing out, it's absolutely horrible, and like it's even terrible now. Like you get Catholic cardinals coming out being like, "Oh, euthanasia is okay." They're not excommunicated, but for some freaking reason, SSPX got excommunicated. I'm,
yeah.
you know, like it's a rot that's even infected the church itself. You know.
It's you know, and it's and on just a side point here about that, you know, there's I don't know if you're familiar with Father Chad Rippiger, but he's pretty awesome. He's an exorcist that's become fairly prominent. He's uh, kind of been helping Sean Ryan on his coming back to the Catholic faith, and
Hmm.
he's been on Tucker, but he provides some insight, and you know, there's an interesting thing that's going on, and but you know, between you know the individuals within the Vatican and whatnot, and so I would recommend that people go and like listen to some of the stuff that he says. But one thing that I think is I think is good for anybody is whatever you do, like the evil that exists, right?
Hmm.
And you know, Christian to Christian, for any other Christians that listen to this, or people who understand the faith, like everything that we're seeing in the Vatican or in Protestantism or anything that's inherently negative, right,
Hmm.
is counting on us to accept these things. It's counting on us to moreover walk away from the faith.
Hmm.
And just say, I'm not doing this anymore. When in reality, the response is, and the way to rebuke it is to not waver in our faith, but to stand firm in the face of adversity, which was the expectation. And even in so much of that, the moral prerogative that's there, I think, is extremely important too. It's this idea that yes, things are bad, they're likely to get worse. We know this through a lot of different things, and maybe one day we're going to have to go through and just do like a faith segment or whatever. I think that would be fantastic, because you and a handful of people I know would be great with that. But the point is like things are going to get really
I don't want to
bad.
seem like I have more knowledge on that than I do. Like, I'm actually not Catholic. I've just read a lot of Catholic stuff.
Yeah, well,
but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm some theologian. I certainly aren't. Certainly aren't. I guess. Yeah, my English is working really well, but
we speak our own way up here.
But it's one of those things to where it's like, again, struggle, adversity, pain. Like the sufferings that we go through as human beings. Everybody looks at them as a negative, but it's like there is a purpose behind all of it. And I really do believe that. And it's so it's not like it's all for naught, I guess is one of the big things that I'm saying is like, we are going to be tested. And I think especially when you look at certain issues and certain matters, to stay the course that we know to be true, because all of the interested parties that want to see us fail are expecting us to fail. They're expecting us to waver. They're expecting us to fall apart, crumble, and to just disintegrate into whatever. I'm not going to, as a person of faith, I'm not going to give Satan the gratification of that, but I sure as heck ain't going to give a government the gratification of that neither.
Well, government and Satan's one and the same.
So, well, it's been said that, there's many forms of religion in this earth. And I do think that there is a component to that when it comes to government. So, there's, and perhaps this is a great segue, but there is a deification component of politicians, of elected bureaucrats, of people in power. And, with that, with that form of deification, we get things that are like surveillance and all of that. Man, what a time to be alive. We're supposed to be in the golden era, but at the same time, we have people openly advocating for things like flock and Axon and all of these different things. Like, oh, it's not that big of a deal, you guys. It's perfectly fine.
You cannot convince me that these data centers that keep popping up like weeds everywhere, that aren't running bots to just try to sway the public, being like, oh, as a Virginia man, I'm okay with the assault weapons ban. Okay, trace that signal. I guarantee it's coming from a data center. It's not a real person.
In the language too. You look at the language that some of that so many responses are from, and whether it's on X or whatever. It really, it's like nobody talks like that though.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a minute ago about the point of literacy, and I think it's when I got cut off. But like the literacy rates, like if one of my favorite rabbit holes to go down is reading old campaign speeches. Like if you go back, let's talk about maybe 120 years ago. If you go back and read a presidential campaign speech from 120 years ago, it's going to sound like a college dissertation. It's going to be using big words. It's going to be addressing like the intellect of like a well-equipped society, But if you go and then you immediately pull up a speech from Donald Trump, he averages, I think it's 2.3 syllables per word.
Wow.
So something happened. And
a lot of hand waving, Travis.
A lot of hand waving.
So good.
This makes
so
everything
good.
sound better. But yeah, like you go back to Teddy Roosevelt, or you go back to even especially Calvin Coolidge, but like even Abraham Lincoln in his speeches, like he sounded very intelligent,
Yeah.
he
Oh yeah.
sounded extremely educated. Like this man had been reading all of his life, and he was speaking to people that had been reading all of their lives.
Right.
And the reason for that is, and I guarantee it comes down to comfort again. Like we're bashing comfort on this episode, I guess. But the
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
is when universal voting came around, and like just everybody was allowed to vote whether they own land or not.
Yeah.
Like and you call me an elitist, that's fine. I'll wear that with a badge right here. Fine, I'm an elitist. I'm a landowner. I am educated. I
Hmm.
pay my taxes. I have an ID. That kind of person who seeks those things out, seeks out education, seeks out land to own, owns property. Like, if you are that type of person, you are guaranteed to be more intelligent than everyone else, right?
Right.
And that was the exact people that were allowed to vote under the original Constitution, you know? And then Woodrow Wilson, of course, he had a stroke and his wife ended up doing most of his stuff. But like Woodrow Wilson, like they capped the House of Representatives,
Yeah.
like because if you look at the original like allotment of the Constitution, the wording is weird, but it
Hmm.
says one representative per 30,000 people. But it says one representative shall not be greater than 30,000 people. So they use that as like a loophole to be like, oh, well, we can have 3 million people per representative.
Hmm.
So they could have worded that better in the Constitution. But the thing is, it's not a perfect document. It's a piece of paper. The thing is, they capped the House of Representatives. But if we had been going by the 30,000 number, we would have over 11,000 members of Congress right now
Right.
instead of just 435.
Right.
And
Right.
I think little things like that just add up into a freaking mountain.
For sure.
But yeah, it goes back to comfort. Like if you're a landowner, you're allowed to vote. I think we should go the Robert Heinlein way. Like if you serve in the military, or you're a landowner, or you've had children in wedlock,
Hmm.
if you've done one of those three things, you should be able to vote. If not,
Hmm.
f off. You don't get to vote.
So I hopefully my humor hits properly here. But just going to the reading thing and the, especially the addresses. Uh, I've been working on this a little bit, Travis. So if I fail, I will accept my failure. But Travis, I've just got to say that, quite frankly, I don't read the books. Okay, I don't. I gotta tell you, when I lay down in bed at night, Melania, she reads me the books, and I gotta say,
The
Travis,
little
that
engine that could.
Melania does. She reads the books and covers the words bigly. Okay, uh, she does it so well. Quite frankly, people are talking, Travis, and the books are so good. I don't know what they say. I don't read, but Melania does it so well. Uh, Quite frankly, the Golden Books, if we're being honest, so good. So it's like when you, it's amazing. Okay, and there is a point. There is a point to this. I have never listened to a man ever provide a speech that contradicts himself in the first like 2 minutes of his speech.
Mhm.
We have effectively obliterated Iran's military, but I'm here to tell you that if they attack us again, we are going to obliterate them again, and they're not going to hurt any of our people anymore. It's like, dude, which one is it? Like, did you obliterate the military, or can they attack us? Like, I don't. It's the most. It's the most infuriating. It just irritates me so much because it's like, this guy doesn't even know what he's saying anymore. Like, I highly doubt that he's being told anything of truth. and this does factor, I think, into the betrayal of the revolution. Like, Judge Andrew Napolitano actually talked with Trump at one point, and he asked him, he's like, "Have you ever read the Constitution?" Trump flat out told him, "I haven't read the Constitution. I have people to read that for me." Like, what in the world? In what world? I mean, it's not surprising, right? When it comes down to all of the things that are going on, it's like, oh, I have people to read that for. I'm sure it was Melania, you know, like she probably read the Constitution to him or something. I have no idea. But poor Melania, she gets picked on. But but it's like when you look at surveillance and you look at war and you look at all of these different aspects of a police state, the regulation, the taxation, the you know, just a lack of caring about anybody or anything that's not his ego, and just overwhelmingly, just like if it's not like stroking his ego or filleting his ego, he doesn't care about it. And I think one of the most jarring things for me that I've never heard a politician at all say was when he was asked about like gas in the polls and several other things. He's like, I don't care about it. I don't care about it. And it's like, if that couldn't have been a more blatant thing for Americans to hear. It's like, I just don't care. I have a war to fight. It's like, what in the world what are we living in right now? You know, like and then he just came out recently talking about how people need to support the data centers, I believe is what it was. And it's like, dude, you know, I mean, it's just thing after thing after thing. And I think maybe what's so jarring for people about it is, you know, the one thing that everybody gave Trump a lot of credit for is now a negative. Well, it's a positive. It's a positive. Don't get me wrong, but it's jarring because like now he's just being honest about the fact that like he really just doesn't care about anybody in the United States. He cares about his friends. He cares about little Marco. You know, like we gotta keep little Marco, you know, doing stuff. But even to your point, going back to diplomacy and so many things that contemporarily just are falling apart today. My gosh, like we are sending real estate people to try and negotiate things. We don't even have legitimate negotiators anymore, Travis, for anything. And even if we did, nobody's going to trust our government to keep their word. The U.S. government, the U.S. in general. I'm sorry, but the you know, the government is in way a representation of the people. I know that sounds mean, but it very much is in ways that we don't like. But when you can't even like when you if the United States was a guy who enters a party and when they enter that party, everybody's like, oh, it's that guy, you know, don't talk to that guy. Don't believe anything that guy has to say. That guy will probably do great and terrible things to you for no reason whatsoever, or he'll lie to you, tell you that something is going to be good. I mean, it's what position? I mean, do we even have any credibility anymore? I mean, in terms of anything. And when I say we, I'm speaking more about the government, but it's the government also is not there by itself either, is the other point that I'm trying to make. And I know there's a lot of people that say, well, you know, we didn't vote for this. It's like, yes, but they're still there. And I understand that not everybody in America did vote for that. I get that, but you know, it's like this is the situation we're in because to some degree, whether by our participation or our lack thereof, these people are there, and that is a consequence of things that happen. So, I mean, where does that leave us, brother? I mean, I'm not trying to be black-pilled either. I'm just trying to ask like a legitimate question here. Like, where are we?
Well, like, I don't know. Like, as I said, the reason I study history so much is because like I want to get a hint of what's coming, you know?
Yeah.
The short answer to your question is that I feel like we're already screwed, and we just got to ride the tiger at this point and just see where we
Yeah.
land. Because if you track this Iran war, we are getting our asses kicked. We've already had to move bases like twice.
We're
because
losing on two fronts, both in the
we're
Middle East and in Europe. I mean,
American soldiers have never been hit by the size of munitions that they're getting hit right now. So
Yeah.
like even at the height of World War II, the V2 rockets, all that crap, we were still not getting shelled this hard.
right.
So tactically, the nation of Iran is its own. Like Iran is a fortress. It's
Oh,
built like a
100%.
fortress.
Yeah.
It's
And I've had
completely
other people
surrounded
come
by
on and say that
mountains.
too. So,
And if we ever make landfall there with troops, they're going to be facing kill box after kill box after kill box after kill box. And they will not make it all the way to where they want to go. So our only option is to keep throwing missiles at them, and we've got to defang like 10,000 different launching sites. But they've only got to hit a couple hundred different bases and little, and like aircraft carriers and things like that. So they only have to shoot at a few things, while we have to shoot at a whole bunch of things, you know.
And we have to find them. You know,
Yeah,
like that's the
and
other
we
thing.
have to find them, you know. And we can't find them until after they've already shot. So
Isn't there an irony too, where we also have we also have this administration that's now crying and complaining like, oh, the Russians and the Chinese are giving them data. It's like, I mean, dude, like you guys wanted escalation and you got it. Like we're doing the same thing for the Ukrainians. How did you not expect this? I mean,
China could do the funniest thing right now and just send Iran one warhead, just one nuke.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Everybody would poop their pants and go right back home. Like just one nuke launch from Iran. They square point Tel Aviv or something like that. And then everybody's just like, okay, the war's over. We're going home. Because like all the signs are there that American hegemony are going away. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
Rome genuinely thought it was hot shit until like the Visigoths were at the gates, you know.
Until it wasn't.
And in my podcast intro, there's like a slice of that, right? So King Alaric, he receives their envoys, and he demands all movable property, all their gold and silver, all of their slaves. And they're like, well, what will be left for us if you take all of that? And he looks them square in the eyes and he says, your lives.
Yeah.
That's ice cold, you know, like ice cold.
So to that point though, okay, so we see that this thing is obviously not sustaining itself. I mean, we talked about that the last time I had you on as well. And I do want to make a point for you to kind of hit off of as you're going along. But one, is that necessarily a bad thing if we get knocked down and we're existing in the world? But two, you know, well, I'll let you answer the first one, then I'll shoot the second one to you. So, I mean, is that a worse state for us, honestly, Travis? Like if we just get knocked down a peg and we exist and we don't have the responsibility of maintaining a hegemony. I mean, I don't.
You know, honestly, at this point, I'm okay with it, like going away, the whole American hegemony.
We may be better off.
Like, I genuinely think Trump could be still, even after his repeated F-ups, I'm trying not to swear, even after his repeated F-ups over the last almost 2 years, like, he could still be remembered as one of the greatest presidents ever if he would just pull a Hadrian. Because Hadrian, he came into office and, like, he took the purple, right? And he was like, okay, we're gonna draw our borders. We're gonna build these walls. There's the Hadrian's Wall in England. There's the Hadrian's Wall in Egypt and all that.
Yep.
It was what was called the Great Retreat, right? He clearly defined the borders of the Roman Empire because he knew they were getting stretched thin. He knew that they couldn't keep expanding forever because they just didn't have enough people to do it. So he clearly defined their borders and like, we're going to hold this. You cross this line, you're dead. Otherwise, you're not a problem, right?
Right.
So anyway, Then Rabbi Bar Kokhba comes along and decides to be a problem. And well, he sells 23 legions down there and completely just guts Judea. But like, but like to your point, I
Yeah.
don't think it's a bad thing to have a mass retreat like that, because we
Right.
cannot keep this global empire going. Like, we're
No.
expending exponential amounts of money. You know,
Yeah. Yep.
Trump himself has added like 13 trillion to the debt by himself, like just him.
Yeah. A
And
crazy amount just within the last, what is it, 18 months? Like an
yeah, yeah,
exorbitant amount just within the last
yeah,
18 months.
yeah, it's an absolute dumpster fire. And the thing is, we're going to have to switch to a different currency, or our entire economy is going to collapse. Because if American hegemony goes away,
Right.
all of those dollars that we have circulating out there in the world, they're going to come back here, and
Right.
they're going to find their way back here, and it's going to destroy our entire economy, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to have to go back to gold and silver or some kind of crypto or something like that. But I genuinely think we should just retreat back to the Western Hemisphere, lock down North and South America, and be like, "This is
Mhm.
ours. Cross it at your peril." You know what I mean?
Right.
But like, if that's the only economic move we have, because we're not reopening the strait, not with force
No.
anymore.
No. Um, and so the next one I want to pitch over to you
Mhm.
is, well, it's not even so much a question as it is something I've observed
Mhm.
amongst a growing amount of people. And
Mhm.
I'm curious to know if you've seen the same thing. If we go back, say, 10, 15 years,
Mhm.
there was a big movement, with like the Tea Partiers, the libertarians were still kind of going in this. Conservatives were still involved in this line of thought, to where like, hey, man, like we can really, like we can fix this country. We really can fix this country. And
Mhm.
perhaps maybe that was true.
Mhm.
Perhaps maybe it was true back then. And I'm not trying to posit that this is my position. I'm just trying to lay something out. But now, what I hear prominent conservatives, like actual, like people who care about the country, libertarians, and other people, is it's not about saving the country. It's about saving the foundation and the principles and the values of this country, because they all know that this thing is not long for this world. And
Mhm.
I think there's a growing recognition of, we need to be more concerned about what we're going to do after, instead of trying to save something that no longer wants to save itself. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you've seen that mentality grow, but it seems to me that a shocking number of people are coming around to that conclusion.
Mhm.
And that seems to be more of where the mentality is shifting, versus trying to just fix or save everything that's going on today. I'm curious to know what your thought is on that.
Um, yeah, I just saw something that I got to tell people about, like, incredibly offensive. I seen a dude carrying a purse and wearing a fanny pack. That is absolutely unacceptable. But yeah, like, one thing I was discussing, to actually answer your question. uh, like, I was doing everything I could not to laugh at him while he was looking at me. I was like, "What the hell are you doing, dude?"
And you're not even in the Walmart parking lot, my dude.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah. Anyway, the to answer your question, one thing I was talking about with Phil Ryan when he was on my
Yeah.
podcast, he's kind of a lefty, like a
Yeah.
little bit, but he's
Mhm.
still an anarchist, right? And he and I disagree on a lot of things, but me and him get along really, really well. Like,
Sure.
because he's one of those that you can just sit down and actually have a conversation with, instead of that's going to be starting to sling threats and stuff like that.
Isn't that nice when you
It is.
get
It's
people
so
like
nice.
that?
And,
I
and
mean,
one thing I
I'm
talk,
even a little bit more
yeah,
libertarian, but we get along
yeah.
just fine. It's like, it's
Yeah, yeah, and one thing I was talking about with him was is that all of us that are having these conversations right
yeah,
now, we're making preparations for when things fall apart. I've literally got
100%.
I've
Yeah.
literally got my survival bag in the back of my car at
Oh,
all
it's
times, right?
beautiful.
It weighs 40 pounds. I know you're not supposed to have 40 pounds, but I'm prepared for any damn thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the thing is like, I think all of us having these conversations, because if you look at the internet as a whole,
Yeah.
libertarians own the internet. We actually are the unrivaled masters of the public discourse. You know, we
Yeah.
own it. It's ours. We've already won. There's no command. Their propaganda is immediately laughed at. It's so weak. It's so gay. It's so fake, right?
Mhm.
Well, all of us having these conversations, we need to start thinking of ourselves as the new founding fathers, because all of this is going to go pop very, very soon. And we're going to have to figure out a way to make a new republic. You know, we're going to have to be, we're
Sure.
going to have to come together and be like, okay, we might not agree on this, but we can meet on this and that, right? So me and
Sure.
Phil Rand, we need to start thinking of ourselves as the new founding fathers, right? He's got an IQ of like 280. He's like, he was telling me stuff about like he works on gold at the molecular level and like
Mhm.
shining light on it. And like I've read a butt ton of physics. Like I'm a physics nerd, and I still don't understand what he was really talking about. You know?
Right. Yeah. Physics is cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, man, dude. I'm always tracking CERN and seeing what they're doing because it's so cool. But anyway, if we start seeing ourselves as the new founding fathers, we can then be like, okay, well, this is the government we're going to build when all of this goes away. And
Mhm.
we're probably not going to have to fire a single shot, to be honest with you. We might in defense when the supply chains collapse, because genuinely, unfortunately, a lot of people are probably going to die during that because we're utterly dependent on our just-in-time supply chains. You're probably looking at like 200 million people dying within just maybe 6, 7 months, something like that.
A lot of, and a majority of that's probably just going to be general starvation.
Yeah, yeah. But like me, where I was raised in the woods in the butt crack of Southwest Virginia, like I'm used to, oh, here comes the winter. I guarantee the power is going to be out for a month straight.
Right.
I was
Yeah.
raised like that. Like when I was a kid, we just had to get used to not having power for 1 month out of the year.
Yeah.
Most people don't have that. Most people have never had that experience. So like already I'm starting on third base, but like,
Mhm.
you know, with podcasts like yours and mine, we're trying to get everybody else on third base so they can
Right.
make it
Right.
alongside of us, you know. So it's going to come down to that all the right wingers are going to survive this, all the left wingers are going to implode and just start tearing each other apart like the Chaz and Chop did. And that was only a few hundred people, you know what I mean?
Mhm. You know, it's interesting looking back at everything, you know, leading up to the events of our founding and looking at certain aspects of history and then looking at where everything's at today. And, you know, just to kind of go back to a point that I made initially when we first started, which is, or it might have been closer to the halfway, but it's like we're not that people. But
Mhm.
anyway, but to your point, like that's okay because we
Mhm.
have an opportunity to do something better. We have an opportunity to do something impactful. We have an opportunity to be able to be that difference that we seek. And in
Mhm.
our own way, like we will carry forward in the best way
Mhm.
that we possibly can. And I think, you know, in my thought process on that changed a lot. I would say in the last probably 3 years, because I was still very like I was still very stuck, like, oh, we have to restore the republic. It's like, yeah, but you know, dude, like we have to like look at this for what it is. And it's like that the old republic is gone,
Mhm.
you know, and I think what it was for me, man, is it was like coping with the loss of something that I didn't even get to experience the best years of, you know? And it's like
Mhm.
it's a nostalgia that I never got to experience, which is very weird, but it's like that's when you realize, oh my gosh, like this was like really freaking great, you know? And it's like I wish I
Right.
could have experienced that. Like um and then you look at okay, so we don't have that, but growing up in the 90s and the early 2000s, like we still had it pretty good, you know, like we were still doing big things. And it's like when you realize what you've lost, even just in the span of like 30 plus years, it's like, and you realize how much faster it happened versus like 70 years ago. It's like, oh man, like I
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna be long for this world, and
Well,
I
like to like I don't want to say I'm pushing back, but I genuinely think things are getting better because
yeah.
like just because of like these big landmark decisions like Heller, like the Wolford thing just a couple of days
Oh, for
ago,
sure. Yeah, no,
just like the
there's definitely
Bruin,
positive.
especially the Bruin decision, like that one hasn't even really spread its wings yet.
Yeah,
Like once everything is based on the history and tradition
yeah,
of the United States, all of these laws, all of these trip laws are going to get struck down.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then let's say the American government like implodes tomorrow.
Hmm.
We have a culture of freedom as it is,
For
like
sure. Yeah.
a people make a nation, right? So like
Hmm.
we're going to be able to be like, okay, the government was useless anyway. They were actually a problem. They weren't actually adding to our lives. So
Yeah.
let's just keep industry going, and then we'll figure out it along the way.
Oh, for sure.
Because
Yeah, and
as long as the food supply and the food keeps getting delivered, nobody's going to care if Washington D.C.
right,
is a smoking crater. Like
right.
who cares if China or Russia just wipes that city off the face of the earth? There's nothing there of value anyway. So
Right,
like,
right. Yeah.
like seriously, like if I come to you, I'm like, Jeremy, man, Washington D.C.'s gone. It got nuked, bro. Like, and then you're gonna be like, okay, cool. What do you want
Oh,
for dinner?
all right. Yeah, I live in Minnesota, my dude. Like that's sounds like a them problem. It's like,
Yeah.
which
Like,
is
I'll be
funny
like,
because
did they at least get the statue of Lincoln? Like, that's what I want.
well, it's funny because in the spirit of the founding of this country, I mean, really, like when you consider where everybody's born in, like that was supposed to be more significant almost than anything else. Like I'm a
Yeah.
Minnesotan, and that's supposed to mean something, and you're a Virginian, and that's
Hmm.
supposed to mean something. Somebody who's from Kentucky, that's supposed to mean something.
Right.
It's like those, each of these states were supposed to have the level of autonomy as like Germany.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, there's a reason it's called free, and I know it's a big word for people, and independent states.
Yeah.
I know that's hard for people to understand, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a big deal.
Well,
And
see, like everybody's like, oh, Lincoln freed the slaves. No, please, I invite you, go read the Emancipation
mhm,
Proclamation. Read the document that you say freed the slaves. It
yeah,
didn't free the slaves. Like
yeah,
he's literally like if you go into that and like actually read what the words are, he's only freeing the ones that are in the rebellion territories. And
yeah,
even then, he's letting them in the couple loyalist cities keep theirs. So like it was an
right.
economic play. I say that to point out that these tyrants they are only going after self-preservation, and
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
they're really really bad at it, because like how many attempts has Trump had on his life? You know what I mean?
yeah,
like like and go back to like what the IRA told to Margaret Thatcher, because Margaret Thatcher they found a bomb underneath the bridge, right? And they're like,
hmm,
and then she sent out a snippy message being like, "You missed me," and the IRA sends back a message saying, "We only have to get lucky once. You have to get lucky every single time."
yeah. Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting when you watch how all of this plays out, and and I still tend to be a very hopeful person, but my
Yeah.
hope is I think it's different than some people's, and I think you and I get this, and a lot of the people we talk to, we get this, is like my hope is not like I'm beyond the idea of like, oh, we're gonna save the American Republic. It's the idea of like, no, like there's a life after this,
Hmm.
like, and when you look at Rome and when you look at any other like empire that's ever happened, like there typically is a life after that. Like
Oh
it
yeah.
doesn't, like the world doesn't stop. Your life doesn't, well, hopefully your life doesn't stop after
Yeah.
the fall. I don't want to get too far ahead, but it's like, in the end of the day, it's just like, dude, like, if anything, you can keep doing what you're doing, except better, like the gate's wide open. And, so I think to kind of bow tie this, this has been a great discussion, but I think to kind of bow tie this, I want to go down two things. What do you think when you look back at our founding and you look at everything subsequently today? What do you think today are the most pressing issues that we face moving forward? And comparably, like, are they worse than what they were back in the founding? Are they similar, etc.? And then what are some positives? Because I want to end this on a positive note, man.
All right. My wife's coming back out. Like, they're wanting me to move the car. My phone's actually almost dead too. But yeah, So what are the? So ask me one more time that real quick.
So what are the issues that we face today that are pressing, that are the most important, that are either similar to or potentially worse than what we had at the founding? And then also, like, I'll have you do a white pill moment and some hope.
Yeah. Honestly, I think things are way better than at the founding because, like, as we talked a minute ago, like, Valley Forge came down to who starved last, And as long as these farms keep pumping out, like, all the food and everything, I think we're just going to be fine. It's just the government itself is going to eventually crack and collapse in on itself.
Sure.
And then we're going to, and then it's going to break down into much smaller, like, state to state issues, right? Like, I think the federal government has just run completely out of steam, and this whole federalism thing is not going to last because it's come down to that they can't even, like, every time they kick a Thomas Massey out, they just prove just how illegitimate they are,
Sure.
And a lot of it's just going to be like, is your community still able to eat? Because people with skills like mine, I can walk into the woods and disappear for months at a time, and they might be looking for me, but they're not going to find me unless I want them to, But, like, I can go up to a pine tree, I can carve off the outer bark, and then I can get the cambium layer underneath that, and I can live off of that for 3 or 4 months. So just me on foot in the woods, I'm going to be able to get past what would be called the Great Dying, which is during, like, a disaster scenario, all the food chains have stopped, everybody runs out of food all at the same time, all the rampaging hordes pour out of the city into rural America, things like that, right? Yeah. Hopefully it's not going to come down to that, because it just seems like the federal government's completely out of steam. The corporate farms and all the businesses and stuff like that, they're self-sustaining. They probably see the government just as much of a problem as you and me do. So a lot of that's going to come down to, they're going to keep sending out food and selling it, but what they accept for money might change. Who knows? Right. A lot of this is going to come down to who loves comfort the least right now. Because if you're already used to rucking a mile a day, doing vertical crunches, hanging from a beam, doing the vertical sit-ups motion, and just getting in shape, you're already way ahead of the average man, and you're going to be that guy who's the main character in any kind of whatever's coming, right? Because, like, one thing that I think is going to happen next year is most of Southeast Asia is going to be without food because they missed their growing season this year.
Right.
They didn't get their fertilizer because the Strait of Hormuz is being closed. So that's 4 billion people going without food all at the same time. So, you're probably going to see like a major global upheaval over that.
For
But
sure.
I think the government here is going to have to nationalize the food supply and then be trying to cover sanctions the other way to where we can't send food abroad to keep it
Right.
here so that the
Yeah.
prices don't skyrocket here. So everything on the earth is interconnected. So it's really hard to keep track of, but I think a lot of it's just going to come down to like people loving comfort as much as they do.
Right.
That's probably going to be a problem eventually, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess my whole disposition on it is for immediate things, yes, like war, taxes, debt, surveillance, the police state. I think a lot of these are immediate issues. They certainly are. They're increasing in our life on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there is hope in the future. And I think as long as we are willing to spread knowledge, we're
Mm-hmm.
willing to connect, we're willing to work together, we are willing to come together on things that actually matter fundamentally in a way, and help each other out in the best way that we possibly can, while still
Mm-hmm.
maintaining the values, the virtue, the morals, all of these different things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our real hope, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that can overcome really anything that this government or any other government subsequently that comes after it can
Mm-hmm.
throw at us. Humanity is
Well,
extremely resilient,
well,
and I think that we have a kind of a knack for overcoming a lot of these things, and just adding to that point where,
mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I mean things are gonna suck, man.
Yeah,
Things always suck.
but
We can get
honestly,
through it, and
but honestly, if you like look at the Jocko Willink mentality, like look up like after this podcast, go look up the Jocko Willink speech called "Good."
yeah,
Like that was one of the things that really like snatched me up by the back of the head and
mhm,
was like good. I'm not going to spoil it for you because it's an
yeah,
experience, that speech. But anyway, like a preacher told me a long time ago, he said, God will not give you a burden that you cannot bear.
yeah,
So, and he's in control of all this, right? Like, we don't have to worry about a damn thing, really. Like, we,
mhm,
we need to be responsible, sure,
yeah,
and we need to try to be virtuous, like you said, but God's in control. Like, in the end, we win. Sure, it's going to suck
yeah,
for a little while, but in the end, we win. Read the last couple of verses in Revelation. In the end, we win. So,
mhm,
like, I genuinely don't see, like, I'm very, very white pill, even though
yeah.
I know,
That's
like,
great.
even though I know a major collapse is coming.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that enduring hope is, I think it's important, man. I really do. So, uh, I appreciate you coming on, brother.
Yes, sir.
Just one more time for the folks that come across this later. Uh, where can they find you? What are you doing? Do you have anything coming up shortly? Let them know.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm Appalachian Liberty. I'm on Twitter, cyberbullying politicians all day long. Usually it's the ones here in Virginia. They went pretty silent after they getting their gun ban stripped down.
Yeah.
So the one I really like picking on is Dan Helmer. Like he's just a little idiot queer, but the the big thing is like I'm always working on just studying history, trying to learn as many skills as I can. On my
Yeah.
podcast, I usually close out by having the guests. I usually close out by having the guests pick out homework, and they got to
Yeah.
give me three. So like physical task, social
Mhm.
task, and a mental task. So physical task, go get your wife pregnant, have more Christian, have more Christian babies. It's
Yeah.
important. Mental task, I want you to go. Let's see. I want you to read On Kingship by Thomas Aquinas. That's a wonderful book. He's talking about what makes a good leader and a bad leader. And then the social task, I want you to meet your neighbors. I want you to actually go talk to them and learn their life story and figure out their, like, provided, they're not hostile and won't kill
Mhm.
you, obviously, but especially your elderly neighbors. Like, go talk to them. Get
Yeah.
to be friends with them because they know way more than you do, I guarantee you, And they like, so, yeah, just do those three things, build community. Like, nobody's going to be able to survive anything alone. Like,
Right.
no man is an island unto himself. Every man is part of a village, right? So, like, if you do these things that amount to virtue,
Hmm.
you're going to be equipped to handle pretty much damn near anything.
Right. Right.
And yeah, so I'm Appalachian Liberty. Check me out on the Great Object Podcast. Um, last couple weeks ago, I had the Illinois VP, the Illinois chair on for the Libertarian Party. Me and him had a
Hmm.
great discussion. We were talking about Emperor Chen Shi Huang of China and the Federal Reserve. Trust me, those two are connected in more ways than you would think. I know that sounds like two
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
opposed, yeah, but anyway, yeah, like just come check us out, come hang out on Twitter, and we'll have a good time. Thank you
Heck
for
yeah.
having me. This has been great.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man, and it's always a pleasure being able to just bounce different things off of you and just to have a
Mhm.
conversation. And I know it kind of went a little everywhere tonight, but it's all
Oh
right because I think it's a broad spectrum. It's hard sometimes to be able to just nail something down,
yeah.
especially when you're talking about like you know where did we start? Where did we end
Mhm.
up? There's a
Yeah,
lot going into that. So I would love to have you back again in the future. And I
absolutely.
think
Anytime.
there's a lot of great conversations that we still yet to have. So thank you very much. And thank you to each and every person who takes the time out of their day to come and check this out because, the more people that come and check it out, and if you like it and whatnot, share it, spread it around. If you found it informative, hopefully we can get something continuing to grow here. It's not even about my podcast, honestly. It's just about getting more people into the conversation and hopefully bringing more people together. So everybody, go in liberty, carry that torch with you wherever it is that you may go, or with whomever it is that you may talk to, and hopefully we can make something happen one day at a time, one step at a time, because that's really what matters. And giving our posterity a fighting chance. So, without further ado, I'm going to hit a little bit of outro music, and I really, really appreciate you, Travis, and I really appreciate everybody who comes in and watches. So, thank you, and we
Mhm.
will catch everybody on the flip side.